Welcome to another episode of Ecom Experiences, a podcast for e-commerce marketing leaders who want to grow and scale their brands faster. Join us as we interview some of the smartest brand founders and marketing leaders in the industry. Explore the lessons they learned, discover the keys to their success, and discuss what excites them most about the future.
Hi, it's Samir Balwani here, host of Ecom Experiences, where we talk to brand founders and marketing leaders about their experiences growing brands. This episode is brought to you by Query. Query is a paid media agency that helps brands balance brand awareness and performance marketing to drive predictable and profitable growth. To learn more about how we can help you, visit weareqry.com. I'm really excited about our guest today. I have Andrew Mosko, the VP of D2C and Marketing at Juice Bikes. He's super smart, has a lot to share. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Samir. I'm really glad to be here.
Well, Andrew, let's get started and kind of just give people an understanding of who you are and what's the brand that you work for.
Absolutely. So I am Andrew Mosko. I lead the direct-to-consumer and marketing here at Juice Bikes. Juice Bikes is a direct-to-consumer e-bike company / brand. We design and manufacture our bikes and sell them direct to consumer at juicebikes.com. Currently we have no retailers. We are through no partners. We do it 100% direct online. And it is exciting. From an e-bike perspective, we have been around going on 16 years. So we pride ourselves on being one of those brands that has been around from essentially the start of the e-bike craze. We didn't just pop up during the pandemic. Our founder, Tora Harris, prides himself, and we pride ourselves on the organization at painstakingly engineering e-bikes that riders will enjoy. We never sacrifice performance for or function for harm, safety for speed. And like I said, Tora Harris is our founder, 2009 former U.S. Olympic high jumper.
Awesome.
So we are built on competitiveness and competitive nature.
That's so Andrew, talk to me more about what makes Juice Bikes different than the other e-bike brands out there. I know you kind of said it in the abstracts, but can you give me like an example or two?
Yeah, absolutely. So our bikes are we have quality bikes.
Yeah.
In the world of e-bikes, you may compare our bike to another brand, and we may be $800,000 more. The reason for that is that we build our bikes for sustainability, for long-term, so that if you purchase that bike today, you are not in market for another e-bike in 18 months, as most are when you buy inexpensive bikes from overseas. Our bikes are meticulously engineered down to the handlebar, to the seats, to our torque sensors, so that when a rider or when someone's in market for e-bikes and they actually ride one of our products, they instantaneously fall in love with it because it doesn't feel like a bike and it doesn't feel like an e-bike.
Interesting.
It gives you this effortless ride that all of our owners enjoy. And this is why we have a large percentage, more than half of our customers come back more than once to purchase a second bike and a third bike.
Oh, that's so interesting. It's funny because it's like they don't need to buy it, but they want to buy it because they want to have the whole, gamut of bikes. And I'm curious, Andrew, how many of them are gifts also for like family members and things like that?
So usually the second and third bikes are gifts or purchases for a wife, for girlfriend, for husband, for partner, for kids.
Yeah.
And we pride ourselves on that because that first purchase, we have sold ourselves to that owner or to that bike purchase, and they believe in the brand. They become loyalists. There are Facebook fan groups on Juiced Bikes that you wouldn't believe what some of our owners and some of our riders do to their bikes from a customization perspective.
Oh, that's
pretty
cool. Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of people think the only way to extend your LTV is to either have new product lines that people can come and purchase or have a product that degrades over time, so it has to be replaced. But there's also this third element that you guys have absolutely locked into around, buying as a gift and being something you're so excited about that you want to give it to other people. And high price
See
point
that a
doesn't
lot.
preclude you, right? Like it's kind of crazy because it's not an inexpensive purchase. And so
No,
that is a very thoughtful one. Um,
yeah.
that's awesome. So I'm excited to chat more about your role specifically. So your title is D2C and marketing. There's a lot in there. So tell us kind of what does your day look like? What do you do?
Yeah, let's unpack that a bit. My role is direct to consumer, which encompasses our D2C site, Ecommerce,
Mhm.
and marketing, which is heavily skewed towards digital marketing today because we are a digital D2C brand. I lead the team that manages the online merchandising, the content for our .com, juicedbikes.com. I lead the team that strategizes around promotions, promotional calendars, content, social media, email, SMS, any touch affiliates,
Wow,
influencers, blogs, any touch point direct to consumer through any of those channels is what my umbrella is.
it's huge.
Ultimately, our goal is to use every of those channels and drive sales through e-commerce through our site. And on the marketing side, um, all of our organic and paid marketing efforts, whether PPC, organic SEO, on-site content, social paid, all of that also is run through my team. We do use some external agencies because when I say my team, I say that loosely because we are a small brand as well.
Yeah.
And I lead the strategy. I do have some hands-on in some of the execution for ultimately driving revenue and sales for the brand.
That is a huge role, and it has a lot into it. So I'm really curious, when you're looking at your role, what are your biggest challenges right now?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge, what keeps me up at night is the competition. And what I say by that is we're not afraid of the competition. However, there are e-bike companies that have essentially sprouted overnight during the
Mhm.
pandemic. A lot of these companies are off brands that are being made and shipped from overseas at extremely inexpensive price points. When a casual consumer who's looking to buy an e-bike doesn't know a lot about the technical functions or the technical
Yeah.
specifications, and there is a large portion of this audience that does shop solely based on price and price point, that is the biggest challenge today because we're selling bikes on average 16, 17, $100, some of them north of 2,000, and we're competing against e-bike pop-up shops that have
Yeah.
come within the last few months that are selling for $600, $700.
Wow.
That seems to be at least our biggest challenge is really how are we differentiating ourselves? How are we getting through that clutter and still identifying our target customer who is looking to purchase a quality, borderline luxury
Yeah.
e-bike?
It's interesting because it sounds like it's almost the biggest challenge in that is like an education series, right? Like how are you educating the consumer on the fact that, hey, if you buy that $800 bike, you're probably going to be buying another $800 bike in about 6 to 12 months. Just buy ours, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. And these are the elements of it. So, how are you guys kind of going after that? What are you doing to help, you know, educate the category?
Yeah, we're positioning ourselves as what is our advantage?
Hmm.
What are our value props? And we're using that as our primary message going forward in our marketing, in our communication. We're also trying to humbleize this and be more in touch with a rider or consumer's lifestyle
So cool.
and less of their wallet price point or less of
Yeah.
what they're looking to spend. By doing that, we are actually clearing that path away from those consumers that are looking for a cheap and expensive bike.
Yeah.
And we're speaking directly to those users that are looking to find a solution to that need that they're looking for in an e-bike. And it could be
Yeah.
someone that is looking to transition from, in New York City, transition from riding the subway, riding the train to work. And when the weather's nice, ride 60 blocks on an e-bike and effortlessly ride and don't get to the office all sweaty and know that that bike is going to have enough battery power for the entire week, depending on their ride in a single charge. Know that that bike has enough power to pick up in the event they need to quickly get out of the way of a pedestrian or a car. And also bike that's really, really cool looking. Our bikes, a lot of our bikes we have, and this is where we get into the technical specifications where we speak to that consumer, not on a price point. Our bikes have thicker tires, so it makes it easier for consumer that may be on-road, off-road.
Right.
And someone in market or has familiarity with the e-bike industry will know that that is something that they will pay a premium for.
It's interesting because there's also this element of functional versus emotional, right? And so generally a higher price point product is like an emotional need. It's I want to look like a specific way or be aligned with a specific way. I'm assuming that that's why you guys end up doing a lot of like influencer work because that it's positioning the brand in that area. Or have you guys thought about how you reach that emotional aspect? I know you said you're like trying to get into the writer's lifestyle, but I would almost imagine that there's like the urban rider and then the suburban rider. They've got to be very different customers.
Yeah, completely different customers. And that's where when you dissect our marketing, you dissect our campaigns, we have different bike types for that. And we're speaking to those customers differently. So for example, the commuter, we have some bikes that are catered and tailored towards urban and city riding. And that messaging is solely to make their life easier during a commute, make their life easier when they're going out and they want to go for a casual ride. How do we satisfy that? And then we have the riders that are all about adventure and excitement. And we have bikes that do that.
That's
and we
cool.
speak to them on, we have some bikes that have battery ranges 70 miles on a single charge, which is incredible. So based on that, we can speak to the adventurist. They can go into the mountains, they can go into the trails, and they don't have to worry about the battery dying in an hour, right? That battery will last for 6 hours if needed, depending on how you're.
Can you imagine getting stuck up there? Like that's exactly what your biggest fear would be.
Yeah, and that's what we don't want them to be fearful of when they're on our bike. So that's how we're speaking to our different customer segments. Then we have the casual rider. We have the first time e-bike rider that may not know what it is they want. In our marketing, we drive back to our site. We have an e-bike, e-bike finder / quiz where a user can populate what their needs are. We'll recommend which bike is great for them, which bike may be a little too much for them. And we help that journey from start to finish.
Yeah. It's really interesting because you guys have gone after that education for the consumer in both the product itself in allowing people to decide what products kind of make the most sense for them, but also through your marketing and making it very clear, helping the category actually up level itself. That's really, really interesting. So I'm so excited to just kind of continue in on this. We spoke about challenges for a little bit, but I really want to understand one, how are, what are you excited about now, right? Like casual consumers, competition and the market as a whole. I would imagine you're also dealing with kind of the pullback post-COVID, right? This element of correction there as well. Before we go into the excitement element, I'd love to just better understand, what are you doing both internally in your planning to kind of account for that, but then also as that consumer mindset shifts, how do you go after somebody that's looking at e-bikes now?
Yeah, I think, post-COVID, I think the biggest difference is during COVID, no one knew what they were doing and they just needed to kill time.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
However,
that's so accurately put too.
It's like perfect. However, during COVID, I wasn't part of the organization during COVID. When I look at the data and I look at sales, our purchasers haven't changed much from today to during COVID. As most brands did, you had a larger opportunity for purchasers, but our core purchase and our core customer has not changed much at all. Our price points haven't changed much either since COVID. So from that standpoint, the target consumer hasn't adjusted. we are still seeing extremely similar customer types make purchases of the brand. And I think everyone had this natural, this progression or regression or transition out of COVID. But I think we are further away from the outside of COVID that we have normalized, as most have so far.
Yeah.
And I think, it's very exciting, very positive movement so far.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome. So as we kind of look ahead, what are you excited about?
Yeah, outside of, Juice Bikes itself, just the whole industry and e-commerce and marketing on a whole, and this has been a trend since day one of what we call the internet.
Yeah.
I think the most exciting piece for me is really the evolution and the continuing innovation that is currently happening, both in e-commerce and digital marketing. I think as with the advancement of technology, AI being more involved, which AI has always been involved online. We called it machine learning.
Yeah.
Before AI became the catchphrase. As AI becomes more intertwined into a consumer's life, I'm really excited to see how that transitions into emergence of new experiences, new tools that we're seeing, new platforms, and really trying to revolutionize again, as we did during the pandemic, revolutionize a new way where brands can connect directly with their customers. For example, finding even better ways to personalize a user experience that is going to help us optimize how we market to these customers. And really over time, adopting and adapting this virtual and augmented reality that some retailers and some brands are doing well in trying to implement that into our daily D2C or .com experiences to really drive sales. At the end of the day, how are we utilizing this technology to capture and sell a brand to get a consumer to purchase? And again, my excitement and a little bit of concern is with all of this technology and all of this integration, ensuring that the data and analytics portion and piece stays equally as fast and moving so that we have accurate data to really take back and use and forecast and plan out trends on. So that's where I'm excited about. I'm excited about, long story short, about the evolution and the continuous change. Some may call that challenges, but I'm excited about that.
Oh, I mean, within a change is a challenge, but also an opportunity. And I think the brands that recognize that as quickly as possible will see the benefits of it. I think I love that you said AI, because I think you guys are absolutely poised to take the most advantage of it in that, you said your largest challenge was education. Well, AI makes it easy to educate people at scale. Like the idea of having a ChatGPT bot that can help you decide, like, take your quiz to a whole nother level is like a really interesting opportunity. And then to your point on the measurement aspect of it, the one challenge that I think a lot of people forget about is with the amount of things that we can do, keeping track of all of it starts to become the bottleneck. And so as you look back on, and you said it earlier on that you weren't with the organization during COVID, I'm sure outside of the data, there's no like log of, hey, we did this, and then we did that, and then we did this. And so when you look back on the data, you're like, all right, well, I can make inferences and assumptions on what we did at that point, but you never know exactly. And that is actually a danger for a tool like an AI that may not be able to make the same inference you do, but then give you the wrong output on the other side. I have this like, I envision at some point there's going to be a role where there's a historian at a brand whose just job is to document everything that the company does, that it doesn't get lost. So,
that is, I would not be surprised. And that bottleneck also, at the same time, the amount of data just becomes a bottleneck. Because not just here, but other organizations, even some very large organizations, there's so much data that you don't know where to start or finish.
And then decide what matters, right? Like what actually even matters in this, right?
Correct. Because you have so much data, you can tell any story with numbers.
Oh, yeah.
And it's how are you identifying the right story to tell with the most accurate extrapolations or data insights to help you drive forward. And I think that's a big challenge when we talk about data as well, whether in a small organization or a large organization, is there's so much data that is just sitting there
Yes.
and not being used properly.
Well, and getting everyone aligned on the data, right? Like
Yeah,
it's my favorite is when you talk to a CMO and a CFO and they talk about the data and they both talk about the same metric, but it's coming from two different viewpoints.
differently. Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like, so one thinks it's a great thing and one thinks it's a horrible thing.
yeah.
And you're just like, all right, we've got to come to a definition of what good is and what the number
Twilight Zone.
means. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. So I love that. But so I have one last question for you, Andrew. So as we, you've been in your role for a while, but when you're talking to a new marketing director or a new marketing leader, what advice would you give them for their first 90 days?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I've been asked that from some new and really green um, team members in the past. And I think from my standpoint, as having experience leading successful marketing teams on very large organizations, small organizations, and leading successful strategies, I think any piece of advice or recommendation I would give to a new marketing leader or someone new coming into the e-commerce or marketing world would be piggybacking on what we just said, being able to prioritize data-driven decisions. And why I would say that is because we all have our gut instinct on what we think we should do or what we think is right for a business, for marketing, for e-commerce, for direct to consumer. However, we need to be able to take a look at the data and use that as accurately as possible to help drive that decision making. We are moving so fast. Everyone's moving so fast that in this really fast pace and this extremely competitive world that we're in, competitive landscape that we're in, it's critical that I think anyone who's leading or prioritizing any strategies be able to dissect data accurately and correctly, understand everything from customer behavior, tracking campaign performance, optimizing campaigns, optimizing performance on site, off site, touch points, attribution models, whatever it may be. And using that data to really drive that decision, anyone new or new marketing leader can really maximize their impact. They can identify trends, audiences, measure successes. And outside of that, I would think from a collaboration perspective is someone that is really fostering and empowering a team, proper culture, empowering them from a execution and a work perspective, helping them think outside the box, being innovative, and even open to experimenting. And I know a lot of brands are scared of that, but I think that's where we really find these areas of growth and real areas of new opportunity. And just staying agile and adapting and not taking a loss or a misjudgment or wrong decision partially, because that's going to happen every day. And that's how you're going to grow and really refine who you are.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think if I were to tease out one of the ones that I would live to call out from the recommendations that you made, but not being afraid to make big bets, because that's what moves the brand and the business forward. You'll make a bad decision for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's invariable.
It's going to happen.
And so how do you actually just not lose your marketing confidence, so that way you're not you don't make that decision again.
Yeah.
So
Because what happens is if you've made a bad decision, you're going to be afraid to make a decision.
Yeah.
And you don't want to end up in a position where you're not making decisions, because then things are stalling, things aren't happening. And then every decision from that standpoint will be a bad decision because you're not making the right decision or a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like not making a decision is a decision. It's like,
Correct.
Yeah, that's awesome. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today. If someone wants to find you online, where can people go to learn more about you?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, Andrew Mosko.
Cool. Again, thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. If you liked it, remember to subscribe so you'll be notified of new episodes. And if you know someone who would enjoy this show, don't forget to share and leave a review. It all helps us impact more brands. If you're looking to improve your paid media, go to weareqry.com and schedule a consultation. We're always happy to chat. See you for the next one.